Hey guys, it's Tim coming at you with a new MCU video for this week. With all the different characters coming to the MCU either through the movies like Black Panther, Doctor Strange, and the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel, or to TV like Ghost Rider, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, the door has been opened up to a lot more possibilities for what characters we can see in live action in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And not just to get their own movies or TV shows, but just to show up in some form in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So for this video, I'm going to focus on my top 5 choices for members of the Avengers to appear at some point in the MCU. And with so many people who have been members of the Avengers over time, there are definitely a huge number of choices that could possibly make this list. So there's definitely going to be some people who you'd want to see who aren't going to make my list, unfortunately. And for this list, I left out anyone who's appeared in some form in any part of the MCU, whether it be in film or in TV, like Hellcat, or characters who are going to have cameos in the future at the very least, like Wonder Man and Guardians 2, and for obvious reasons I left out anyone who's owned by Fox, so any members of the Fantastic Four or Wolverine or Beast who have been members of the Avengers in the past. So with all that out of the way, let's get started. Number 5. My first choice is going to be Greer Grant, also known as Tigra. She's been a member of several different incarnations of the Avengers over the years, but to date has really only had one major appearance outside of the comics, and that being in the lackluster 90s animated series Avengers United They Stand. So I feel like it's time that she gets another crack at outside media. And one of the larger reasons why I want to see her in an Avengers film is because of her unique visual design. Outside of the Vision and the Hulk, and the characters obviously appearing in the Guardians of the Galaxy films, we really don't have a lot of people in the Avengers who aren't just regular people wearing costumes. So it'd be nice to see that mixed up a bit by having the half-woman, half-tiger hybrid show up in an Avengers film in the future. Number 4. Next up, we have the woman of many names, Monica Rambeau. Whether you call her Captain Marvel, Photon, Pulsar, or Spectrum, one thing that you have to say about her is that she has yet to appear in any outside media beyond the comics. Which is really a shame because not only is she the only person to hold the title of Captain Marvel who has had no connection to either Marvel himself or the Kree Empire, but she was also a leader of the Avengers for a time in the comics. Plus, she has the ability to transform her body into different forms of energy, which would definitely be an interesting visual to see in any type of film or even on television should they put her there. For someone who's been around for as long as she has, and has been the second person to hold the title of Captain Marvel, and even appeared in one of the most well-known comic events ever, Secret Wars, it just seems like a lot of wasted potential to her to have yet to appear in anything outside of the comics. So she's definitely someone who I'd want to see show up in the MCU in the future. Number 3. Next up, we have the Lion of Olympus himself, Hercules. Hercules is definitely a very fun character. He's very boisterous and larger than life, and he's definitely one of the most powerful heavy hitters in the Marvel Universe. He feels like he'd be right at home in the MCU, working off of characters like Thor and the Hulk. Plus, if you bring in Hercules, you also get to bring in the entire Greek pantheon, and I'd definitely be interested to see how they would handle that in the MCU. Especially if Marvel does attempt to bring in more magic and mysticism in the future. Since Asgard has been presented in the MCU as basically just being an alternate dimension that just happens to have stronger people in it who live longer, and most of their magic is just advanced technology. So it would be interesting to see if they went in that direction or if we got more of a straight-up godly pantheon with the Greek pantheon. Plus, if Hercules comes in, you can also get members of his supporting cast, most prominently being Amadeus Cho. In any case, Hercules would definitely be an interesting character and a fun character for them to bring into the MCU. Number 2. And speaking of heavy hitters, my next choice is the man with the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns himself, Bob Reynolds, aka Sentry. A pastiche of a number of different characters, from obviously Superman to Marvel Man, I'm really interested to see what they would do with Sentry if he was brought into the MCU. especially if they gave him a similar backstory to what he had in the comics, where he started off as a superhero at around the same time as the prominent heroes that we know of today, but then later wiped the world's memory of him. Because, though a bit of a cop-out, this could actually be used to justify introducing elements into the MCU that may not fit perfectly well with what they've established so far. Most prominently, to me anyway, being mutants should Marvel get the rights to use them in the future. But even outside of the potential of that, Sentry would just be an interesting character for them to have an approach to. He's someone who has the physique and power of Superman, with Dragon Ball Z style energy beams, but is held back by a number of mental illnesses, from agoraphobia to schizophrenia to just general anxiety disorder. Plus you have his superpowered evil side with the Void, so he'd definitely be an interesting character to see the approach that they would take with him. Number 1. And my number 1 choice goes to the sensational cousin to the Jolly Green Giant herself, SheHulk. And this is a bit of an interesting choice for me, because prior to the release of Civil War, I probably wouldn't have put her onto this list because of how they were handling using the Hulk supporting cast after the Incredible Hulk. But with Thunderbolt Ross making his way back to the MCU, this opens up a lot more potential to her use of Hulk characters in the future. And who wouldn't want to see She-Hulk make her way into live action? She's fun, she's strong, she's a lawyer. So even if they didn't have her in the MCU movies, she could definitely find her way onto Netflix due to how much they love the law there. She's definitely a character that I'm always interested in seeing more of, especially in outside media, and this would be her first official live-action appearance should she make it in. And with how popular the Hulk's been in the MCU, I really don't see a reason, if they can, to bring in the She-Hulk in the future. And those are my top 5 choices for Avengers characters to show up in the MCU in the future. And like I said at the beginning, there's been so many members of the Avengers over time that I'm sure that there are a ton of other characters I didn't mention here who you would all be interested in seeing in the MCU. So, like always, leave those down in the comments. If you're new to the channel and you like what you've seen here, if you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe. And until next time, this has been Tim from the Hybrid Network, signing out.